exchange some ideas about AR and VR.
Absolutely.
So I wish you a nice trip. So we'll start talking about the theme of the day, so the 5 senses in immersive realities. I thank you for the kind introduction, Dragan, and also to you, Konstantin, for the support, and also to Mohammed that has invited me to this event. But now it's time to talk. And so Dragan has already introduced me. I started working with VR in 2014, and I fell in love with this technology because it lets you teleport in another world by just staying at home, in the office, or whatever. And these years, I worked both as an entrepreneur, a developer, and also as someone who likes to talk about the technology online, on social media, or on my website. So I want to, not to have a too technical talk, I want to just make you dream about how to emulate the 5 senses in virtual reality. So we'll start with sight, but actually I don't want to deep dive into it because we already talk a lot about sight in VR. When we talk about a new headset, the first questions are always, what is the resolution? What is the field of view? What is the frame rate? We have these goggles. You immediately think about goggles in front of your eyes when we talk about AR and VR, or glasses or whatever. And so sight is for sure one of our most important senses, but the theme of this talk is to go beyond and think all about the 5 senses that compose our reality. And sight is, of course, also the sense that we focus more in VR and AR, and so the one that we can emulate better. We have displays like the one of the Vario that have a little zone where the pixels are so dense that it's like watching reality. It is a prototype, it is expensive, but it is amazing. I want to show you some cool things about sight that maybe are not so common. So we have this kind of content like Half-Life Alyx that we all love, that show how amazing visuals can immerse you in the world. I know some friends love to hang out just in Alyx in the city and wander around and see how is the world there. So imagine to be another place. If you have a virtual world that is so well designed, so detailed, of course, the sight is the sense that makes you say, wow, when you are in VR, seeing this robots, if you play the Alyx, you know what I'm talking about. But again, this kind of standard high quality VR, and I hope that in some years, the tools will let us developers get something like with this quality, even with not this high budget. But I want to show you about something maybe different, like this mixed reality stuff that Vario is doing. So Mix put the virtual elements there in the world where there is a green screen. In this case, you can have a green screen room and really enter into Google Maps. But the cool thing is that there are real elements. The controllers that you're seeing as is real controllers, and other here. So you can be with another person inside Google Maps and see them both the real and virtual elements. And this is cool. These are the experiments, always in mixing real and virtual, and this time also mixing sight and hearing. It's called Beat Reality. It's an application made by us together with the telephones. If you could hear the audio, maybe I try lifting it for a moment. This experience mixes the sound. So depending on the sound that you hear, the visuals are pumping with different colors. So you have a mix of what is real, but you see this in a different way. So there's kind of some researchers that call this some kind of mediated reality, because you see the reality is not an augmentation, it is a modification of how you perceive reality. And in this case, it's a modification that depends on another sense, that is the audio. It's funny that we also took this experience with a headset in a discotheque in Milan, here in Italy, and people had a blast trying it. I know there was a bit crazy because, you know, people in discotheque maybe are a bit drunk. They're always happy whatever they try, and someone told us it's the best thing I tried in my life. So I understood there are some drunk people of MR. And this is another kind of experience in mediated reality. So it's demi-shared reality. What about if you can remove objects? This is a very rough prototype I made with the Vive Focus Plus. But it's interesting that you see that you can make objects disappear from your reality. So here, look, you have a smartphone in my hand, and then, bam, it disappears. I don't see it anymore. Someone says, the comment said, there are some people that I would like to disappear from my reality. So it is not made for this purpose, of course, but imagine the possibility of maybe removing some objects that maybe scare you or there are problems for you from your reality, or even studying something by removing objects. Of course, PowerPoint has crashed in the worst moment possible, but this is for sure a big possibility. This is another thing that we're doing is a mixed reality game called Immotion. So let me do this little promotional moment. So it is a fitness game. It is a boxing game, but the difference that is made in MR is not made in VR like the other games. And so you can play it safer because when you punch objects, you see where there are walls, you see where there are the other people around you. So you don't risk punching people and punching objects around you. And these are the example of how we love to mix virtual and real elements. And that is probably also the future of the technology. So adding objects, removing objects, modify your reality is probably our future in the next 10 years. You see lots of movies about it. So this is what about the site. I want to show you something interesting. So let's talk about the second, probably most important sense that you have now in VR, and it is the audio. Audio is overly important. So it has happened to me as a developer to have kind of not given it the right importance. So focus mostly on the 3D assets. But actually, audio is very important. And some people say that it's important, like 50, 60% of a VR experience is the audio. So if you really are able to create realistic audio for your AR and VR experience, you can immerse the user a lot more into it. And it's not the case that Valve, the company that has made Half-Life Alyx with the beautiful visuals that you have seen before, is also the company that has created the headset with the best in-class audio. Also, Half-Life Alyx has put lots of attention to the realistic audio. The one that you see here on the left is the speakers of the Valve Index, the headset by Valve. And they're very interesting because they're off the ear, so they don't touch the ear. They're a bit distant from it. And also they emit, thanks to a technology called BMR, it emits some kind of audio that is both cool basses and cool high frequencies. So the audio is very realistic. You can also use it to listen to music because it's very, very good. It is very important so to focus on audio. And there is research both in VR and in AR. What the device that you see on the right is the AR glasses by Bose. Now they are being discontinued, unluckily. So there are lots of studies, but the first device that I put in the first video actually are the AirPods. So you may ask me why I just put some kind of earphones in this presentation about AR and VR. Because I think that AirPods may be what leads us to the future of audio augmented reality. Apple has been probably the first company that has been able to put some objects on the head of users, and these people keep this wearable all the time, all the day. And this is what we dream, you know, when we talk about augmented reality, we think one day we will wear glasses on our face all the day. And we wonder, will we really want to do it? Apple has been the first company that has made people willing to keep a device always on the face. And this is the AirPods, and they're not only earphones, because when I talked with the Robert Scoble, the technologist from the Silicon Valley, he told me that now the latest version of the AirPods, you have the same level of the electronics that were like in the iPhone 3 or iPhone 4. So imagine they're like super smart devices. And imagine if you can use it for not only talking with people, but also have audio augmented reality. So depending on the places where you go, maybe you're going in a historical place and you go through it, go to the ruins, and you can hear the audio of the experience that were there, the world that was at the time. or you can have some kind of application help people with hearing impairments. So actually the cool stuff is that people have them always on. In fact, also other brands are following. In the beginning, we all mocked Apple for these wireless AirPods, but now all the world is going towards that direction. And it can be very important to have audio augmented reality wherever people go. Of course, there are also glasses. So I talked about the Bose AR glasses before. They have been discontinued because probably they have not the sales they were expecting, but they're not the only cases of audio AR glasses. So they're basically glasses that are fashionable and they have very smart speakers close to the ears. Now, Huawei just announced in China the second evolution of their devices for audio AR. And it's another way of trying to make people wear something that is fashionable all the day, so that in the future you can not only listen to music, but you can have some kind of augmentation of the audio that you feel for gaming, pairing, for instance, with a AR game like Pokemon Go or for whatever application. And I want to close this chapter about audio by talking about Facebook, because it is the company that is in the Facebook Connect last month showcased something very cool. Two experiments caught my attention. One is this one about creating realistic audio. So the idea of Facebook is I want to create some virtual audio that is so realistic that people can't tell when they hear it if it is real or it is virtual. To do that, they are studying not only the property of the ear and how the audio waves resonates in our ears and close to our head, but also how the audio propagates in the environment around you. Because imagine that I'm in AR in this room, and if you want to emulate the virtual audio that comes from the door, you have to understand how the audio waves first propagate through the environment and then reach my ear. Facebook is doing both of these studies. So it's going to study the head of the users and by just taking some pictures, understand how your ear works. So the speakers of the future AR glasses or the AirPods or whatever can emulate how this audio gets emitted. And also by analyzing your environment through your smartphone, for instance, when there will be the AR cloud that everyone is talking about, understand how the audio will propagate there. And the goal is having deliverable audio. So imagine that you can hear sounds that doesn't exist, but they feel to you like they were real. It's magic. And this is what really makes me hyped during the Facebook Connect, is my collaborators talking about the vision of Facebook in offering smart audio in your everyday life. So here is the video, and the dot that you see in the middle is a person in a crowded environment. And by just a smart assistant, he can select to mute the people around him. So that's interesting because as I talked about image shared reality, it's kind of the image shared reality for the audio. So there is people talking about you, but the speaker manages to emit some kind of inverse audio, so you don't hear them anymore, or you just hear a slight whisper. And then when someone that you know approaches you, and AI understands that it is a friend of yours, and so it enables just the voice of that other person. So you don't hear all the rest, you just hear your friends, thanks to the mix of machine learning, studio of audio, etc., etc. So you can talk with other people on the phone or in the real place by just hearing what you want to hear. And then another person joins, and again, the AI understands that you can speak with them. And then comes the other things that super fascinated me. At a center point in the video, after the three people chat together, another person calls to the, I will say with the smartphone, but in the future it will be only AR glasses, I hope. So another person calls them, and the system detects the call, the one in the video, and automatically gets the avatar of the other person. And this avatar gets put at the table with the other three people. So you see the other three people that are real, but there is a fourth one that is virtual, but it is like it is there with you. And the audio from that person is simulated as if that person was seated in exactly that position. And so you hear only the person that you want to hear in a perfect way, in an answered way, and these people can be real or can be virtual. That's really amazing. Of course, it is not coming soon, but imagine this possibility in everyday life when you're in a crowded environment with friends at the pub, etc. And this what people are working the most with. And imagine putting new things above it. So for instance, you talk with people that speak a foreign language, and you can add, for instance, an automatic translator on top of this smart audio. So you can speak whatever language you like with whatever person, you know, already over Skype, you can do something like that. And so the research on audio is doing pretty well. It is, of course, not at the level of the site. I think in some years we'll be able to have some kind of interesting. So for VR, it's like very realistic audio. And for AR is enhanced audio of your life. So as I've shown you in these last two videos. And now let's start going to more in the sciences that have probably research that is a bit behind the main two, that is hearing and sight. And let's start with touch. Touch is a sense that we use a lot in everyday life. We touch objects, we touch people. Now it's unlikely we can't not anymore, but it's great to hug people and feel their energy and this kind of things. Of course, there is also the experiments and try to emulate this in VR. At the moment, when you buy a headset, usually you have just some controllers that are a bit ergonomic, they have limited interactions, and the haptics is just some rumbling of the controller. This is nice, of course, to play, it can be enough. But if we want to reach a level of virtual reality that is more realistic, more immersive, we have to have better emulation of haptics. So what we have now, apart from the controllers, we have some kind of cool enterprise gadgets. This one is called haptics gloves, made by a Mac company. They are very expensive. They are super big. You look how the big are around the hand of the user. And apart from being this big, let me take the frame. They also are accompanied by the big box. So they're not very portable solution, but they're amazing. I never tried it, but I know people that tried it, and they feel like magic because there are some little balloons here on the glove that inflate or deflate depending on what you're touching. So you have like a texture all over your hand of what you're touching. You can feel the stiffness, you can feel the texture, you can feel drops falling down from your hand. There's something that feels like magic, of course. But it's already there. It's an early stage. As I said, it's mostly an enterprise tool for training or maybe some kind of simulations. I guess maybe sometimes also for psychological stuff, military, but it's there. And then instead, other kind of devices that I tried myself, and they're called force feedback gloves. I'm showing you two models. This one is from a Chinese company called Dexter Robotics. They're the Dexmo gloves, and they feel like futuristic cyberpunk exoskeletons. They're very light, they're wireless, and they also make you move the fingers pretty well. They don't only track your fingers, as you may think, but what is interesting is that they apply what is called the force feedback. Force feedback, as you probably will see better in this other video about the Sense glove, is the possibility of grabbing virtual objects in your hand with the objects applying real resistance to your hands. So if an object is real, is virtual, you know, usually in a virtual game, I can close my hand. And anyway, even if my virtual hand can't surpass it, my real hand can. So the illusion of the virtual world being realistic is broken. With force feedback, you have this exoskeleton actually pulling your fingers. So when you touch the virtual objects, they block your finger in that position. So you can't move the fingers to trespass the virtual objects, as if the objects if the object were real. So you have more the illusion of this object being real. And they can't only block, they can also make you more, give you more difficulty in entering the object, as if the object was very stiff, very hard, like this ball. So in this video, I have my empty hand, then I grab a cube and I can't close my hand fully, as you can see in the corner. And this ball instead let me close it, but I have to apply much more force. And then there is the third example that is an egg that at the beginning blocks my fingers. Then if I apply lots of force, it breaks. And then it releases completely my fingers. These two devices are both very interesting. If you're interested in how they're different, the Dexmo gloves are more expensive, more professional, but also have a better quality and they're wireless. The SES glove is a bit more hacky, but it's also a lot more affordable. So the price is around $2,000 or $3,000. That you may say is a lot of money, of course, but if compared with the haptics or the Dexmo gloves, is like 1 order of magnitude less. So small companies could experiment with this. And this is another way of having haptic sensation. Here I am at the Gamescom, and I'm trying the Thermoreal by Tegway. And Thermoreal has some Peltier cells that you put on your ear or even your face, if I remember well, and you can feel hot and cold sensation. It's very strange because I wasn't believing it. And I experienced with a blue hot cube and a blue cold cube and a hot orange sphere. And when I touched the blue one, I could really feel a lot of cold here where there were the bracelet. And the hot really was super hot. I really had the fear that it was hurting my skin because it was super hot. In the end, my skin was nice. I had no problems. You see that I do this with my hand in the video. And this is fascinating. It was my first time trying this kind of emulation. It can be very important for gaming, but also for simulation. Imagine if you have to train a firefighter to walk into the flame and already start to feel the heat sensation. And really, this is something I suggest you to try if you have the opportunity. Here, another device is called the Tesla shoot. And it's called a bit like it's the shoot of Ready Player One. So it is a shoot that you can wear on all your body, and it can give you a full range of various simulation. We're talking about an enterprise device. It's very expensive, but it's incredible because it doesn't only track your body. It can give you a different sensation like hot, like cold, so you can feel that different temperatures on your body. You can also feel some kind of pain. So there was a video when a CNN journalist could get a lot of electrical shocks when someone was shooting her in VR, and also can apply some kind of simulated stiffness to your movements. So it offers a wide range of simulations that now are only used by and other training companies. But in the future, imagine if something like this becomes more affordable. Maybe we can have the Ready Player One sensation wearing it. This is another kind of shoot, but is far more simple, but also more affordable. It's like $400, something like that. That I've tried myself. It's called the Bihaptics. It is a vest with bracelets, gloves, also something that you can put on your face. And inside it has some rumbling motors. So you can wear it, and then you can feel some kind of sensation all over your body, maybe when someone shoots in the game or there is some kind of magic spell or whatever. Or there is another kind of application that I'm showing also soon in the video, and this is for social VR. This Bihaptics, thanks to a plugin developed by a Japanese guy, can be used inside VR chat. So you have this virtual shoot. If you or someone else touches it, you can feel haptic sensation in that point because there is like some kind of texture. So agreed on this shoot. So there are different points where you can be touched. You can feel the sensation in that exact point where you get touched. There are also some videos funny on the web. I prefer not to include in this presentation because on VRChat people can be a bit gross, but they're very funny. Where people hug in VRChat with this shoot, or they touch, or they slap each other, or whatever. And they do this in VR, and the haptic sensation are real in the real world thanks to it. So haptic sensation are also important for sociality because we, especially now that we're in a lockdown and we can't touch each other, with this kind of solution, we will be able actually to become closer even if we are distant. So I think that they're very important, not only for entertainment, but also for the full range of things where you, when we have haptic sensation in real life, when we feel the touch sensations. Unluckily, there is still not a very complete solution for touch. Probably Tesla Shoot is the one that goes closer to it, since it has a shoot and now it is also developing some gloves. But we have to wait for the research to go on before running a very good emulation of the touch sensation on all our body. And now let's come to smell. Smell actually is, we are not very good in emulating smell virtually. There are two kinds of way to which we emulate it. The most popular is to sand particles. So you have some emitters that throw sand, little sand droplets close to your nose so you can feel the smell. And there is also new experiments to electrical stimulation. The technology is quite unwrapped at the moment. There are only some kind of experiments. And that's a pity because smell is one of our most ancient senses. So think about the other animals. They use the sense of smelling a lot. So it is important that we can emulate in the future also this in VR. And there are also one problem in the smell emulation is that there is not at the moment a way to combine some primary smells to create all kinds of smells. So when we talk about vision, you know, every screen is made by RGB, red, green, blue pixels, because with red, green, blue, you can create all other colors. With the sense of smell, you don't have this kind of primary sense. So at the moment, the only solution is to create different cartridges for all different smells that you want to feel. So let me show some experiments. This one is called Feel Real. You can put it below your headset. It was cool because you make you feel sense and also wind sensation. So you had some kind of, not only the smell, but also what was happening to the air around you. I love the Feel Real because it is a very old project. It started with the Oculus Rift, I remember. Then it started again with some years ago with the Kickstarter campaign. And then it comes one big problem of this kind of centimeters because these projects get suspended because in America now, this kind of devices is assimilated with the same functioning of the electronic cigarettes. So they have lots of regulations by the FDA, et cetera, et cetera. It is kind of weird in my opinion. And so this project now is in an unknown state, but it was interesting because it could emulate at home various smells. This is a Japanese company called Vexo, and it works in a similar way. This doesn't emulate the wind, but also the smells, like the coffee, like chocolate. So I know that here in Italy now, I'm close to lunch, so watching this video makes me hungry. But then also some weird stuff like the scent of girl that I don't know exactly what, it doesn't matter. And instead the girl that tries it says that's probably what men hope women smell like. But apart from this kind of weirdness, different kind of cartridge, also the one for ramen, if you want to simulate it you're eating or plants, animals, whatever. And you buy it with different cartridge. So you have to select what kind of smells you want to emulate because as I told you, there is no way to simulate all the aromas just with some predefined particles. You have to decide what kind of smells you want to feel. This, if you want to have a bit of fun, is an old project from like 2016 or 17, the Oculus Rift. It was like Ubisoft trolling people at the PAX East. by this virtual smelling device, but the only smell that you could provide was kind of smell of Cartman of South Park. So you could feel the smell of rotten eggs or whatever. It was disgusting. Sometimes it's also cool to have this kind of funny experiments, because anyway, it got super popular. In that moment, everyone was talking about it because it was so disgusting that everyone wanted to talk about it. Of course, it never became a product. This is a research instead from, if I remember well, from the University of Indonesia or something like that, about not using the centimeters, but try to emulate some kind of smell sensation through electrical stimulation of the sensor that we have inside our nose. It is very, very interesting because it's one of a kind experiment. There are very few that work in this sense. And you can understand also why, because while the experiment, the idea is nice. So you don't need cartridges, just apply some stimulation to the nose by stimulating the receptors. So this is cool. What you need to do is actually a bit frightening. So you have to put some gel close to the nostrils and put this kind of device inside your nose. And this kind of device sends some little electrical shocks to your nose. So probably is not the kind of scent emulation that I'm dreaming of. I don't know if I want to try it, especially I can't imagine what happens if there is some kind of bugs or whatever. But from a technological standpoint, it's super interesting because it's a new approach in this kind of trying to solve this problem of virtual smell. So let's see how it will go. I think Google or some other big companies backing this project, but as you can see, it's a bit frightening to try. And I invite you to try it and let me know your impression about it. And this, to close the smell, this is a bit of, not only smell, a bit of mix of sensation, is this trigeminal stimulation. It is a way to make you feel heat or cold by using your nose. So these people have understood that the trigeminal is a very important nerve that we have in our face. The sensation that the senses perceive from some substances, like the capsaicin, the one in the hot peppers, is the same for the nose that you get from a hot environment, for instance. And the same happens for menthol and eucalyptus, and the cold environment. So you have this virtual gadget on top of a VR headset that throws particles of capsaicin to make you feel hot, eucalyptus to make you feel cold. And they studied that this sensation works. So of course, there's, and it has a big advantage that make you feel hot and cold in your face without make you feel also additional smells. So the capsaicin and menthol and eucalyptus give not some kind of scent. So you can also add some kind of scent emitters to give not only the hot sensation, but the sensation that there is a fire by make you feel the smell of burnt objects. So it's an interesting kind of experiment that the University of Chicago is doing of using the nose not only for the scents, but also for other kind of sensations. And now it's the last one. It's time to talk about the taste. Probably is the less useful kind of sense in most experience, because you usually don't eat while you play VR games, but of course it's important to emulate it for future augmentation of your taste, maybe, or for games so you can eat or experience at restaurants. I'm not included them in this video, but there are some new trends to create some kind of special restaurants where they're the mix of real and virtual elements, virtual taste, virtual smells. So you have a different kind of experience with your real food. So this kind of taste emulation can help in it as well. They're also very expensive. I know that a restaurant in Ibiza maybe was proposing a lunch with this kind of augmented reality tasting experience at like $2,000, something like that. Of course, there was also a Michelin star chef or cooking for them, but anyway, it's a lot for me. Anyway, the current state of taste is really early research stage. So with just some experimental device that look also quite creepy, like you can see on the left. And again, here, my buddy John used to say, I don't want to be the one doing the debugging for this kind of taste emitters, electrical shocks. But let's see that there is already something that is worth noting. This one is called the virtual cocktail, made by Immotionar Singh, is one of the best researchers in the VR taste field. And the idea is, how about if I can create a virtual taste of a cocktail and also can transmit it to others. So he created with his team this kind of special glass through which you can emulate the taste of different beverages. And this is possible through neon that illuminates the cocktail with different color. Then you can, through centimeters and electrical receptors close to the tongue and the lips of the user, emulate the taste of different beverages. These researchers has understood that depending on the voltage of the electricity that you apply on the tongue and also the temperature of the electrodes, you can simulate different sensations, sour, taste, acid, this kind of sensation. And so applying all these things together, so because we also eat with our nose, so you can't only emulate the taste. This kind of special glass mixes this smelling and this taste sensations to create a virtual cocktail that you can drink. And it is interesting, you can also send it. This researcher has also created like a protocol to send taste sensation to different people. So imagine in the future, you can say, okay, I prepare a drink for you that on the other side of the world and you can drink it. Could be fascinating. This is a new project from this year. It's called the Norimaki synthesizer. And actually, there are some kind of cartridge with the 5 main tastes that you can perceive on your tongue, connected with some electrodes to some machine that let you moderate how much of each sensation you want to feel. And since this taste research is all about electricity going through your body, here there is kind of circuit that goes from the machine through this device and goes to your tongue. What happens is that thanks to this electricity, depending on how much electricity you apply on each channel, parts of the particles of these gels go through to your tongue. So detaches from the cartridge and go to your tongue. So you can feel the sensation that the device is giving you. So you can choose to feel acid, and the acid cartridge will release some material in your tongue, you can feel it. Of course, it's not something easily embeddable somewhere at the moment, but again, we are at early stage and it's interesting that all the various things gets experimented. And it is a project that got some visibility some years ago. I don't know the current status. It's called Project Nourished. Was about giving you a new kind of taste experience. Again, involves some centimeters, some pretty visuals, some electrical shocks to your jaw. The experiment was interesting because you just could eat. So let me just show you. This was some cubes of some algae. So some very super healthy food, but that is, no one wants to eat it. You see it, there's no color. I don't know what kind of texture it has. So you will never want to eat a full dish of these ones. But thanks to the visual elements, they make you see, in this case, there is still a cube, but you imagine it can be a cube made of something else, or maybe a glowing cube, a magic cube, or some kind of other dishes. Then there are the centimeters that can make you feel the sensation of what you're feeling, what you're eating, so the taste of what you're eating. And the electrical shocks to the special headset were to the jaw to give the texture. So you can, by making this muscle to contract or release, you can simulate if the object you're chewing is hard or is soft. So this little cube, this white cube of algae, can become whatever you want. It can become a sweet, hard food. It can become something else. It can become some sweeties, something. It can become hard to chew. It can be beautiful. You can eat everywhere because maybe you are at home, but you can see that you're eating in a Japanese temple. And so the possibilities are endless. And this project, in my opinion, was interesting. It was a good mix of art and technology. I would have loved to try it, but there was not the occasion. And there are other experiments with taste. I remember one experiment in having virtual cookies. So if you see a real cookie in real life, but the occasion show you chocolate chips, maybe there is the smell of chocolate. It is like for you if you are eating that kind of cookie. Or the same experiment made the cookie virtually bigger. And eating it, you felt like it was filling your stomach more, even if the real cookie was the same width. So there are lots of experiments being made, all very rough, but all very fascinating. And we need, as I said, all the 5 senses to emulate our reality. So that's 5 minutes. I added some extra of cool stuff that maybe are not exactly related to the 5 senses in VR, but of course embedded in how we can make our reality more realistic in VR. So this is a video. It shows how if you have your body tracked, the eyes, the hands, the feet, you can have visually when you meet people in another world, in a social VR world, they can appear more realistic. So the sight is more realistic and you're more happy. But you can go beyond. And Facebook has made this research pretty popular on how to make photorealistic faces. So you can see in VR faces that are like in real life, even if the user is wearing actually a headset. So this is super popular, this video in the VR community. I'm sure you already saw it. And the other research that is amazing, how to make these avatars actually full body. So not only the face, but the whole body that must be understood so that you can recreate a person in virtual reality. And let me go a little beyond in the video. So understand there's a lot of work in AI to make you create a realistic avatar. This is mostly important for all the senses that must be incorporated in a social VR environment. And this video also was super viral about people meeting in VR and dancing as it with their real avatars. And the real avatars may also be important for not only real person, but what I have not talked about in all this presentation at the beginning, when I made that example about the people that you can meet and have realistic audio, is also that these people can also be not real person. They can be AI people that are assisting you or that are keeping you company because you feel alone. So this is an example of a prototype of Magic Leap called Mika. I don't know what is the current stage. You know, Magic Leap is into troubles. But many people that tried it were fascinated by the fact that it had realistic expression. It was like being there with another person. Because it is very important for us humans when we see other virtual humans to be able to perceive not only the, you know, what they say, but also the micro expression that make us truly human. Talking about another problem is walking. I've talked about the suit of Ready Player One. So why not talking about also the time Ready Player One? It's called Infinadec. Now it's a pretty big machine, but I interviewed them 10 days ago and they told me that they're working on a consumer version. And it is cool because it is not a sleeping pod like the other devices like the Virtuix Omni, but it's like a complicated system with a serpentine going through this kind of treadmill. So you can really perform the walking movement in VR in real life to move in VR. And this is exactly what Spielberg has inspired himself to when creating that scene of Ready Player One. So we'll see next year if actually this will ship to consumers. I'm really intrigued by it. And this is another crazy thing. I love crazy things in VR. It's called the Weightless. So to let you throw yourself in the real world with the big elastic things that tie you to your ceiling. So it is a good way to die probably while you play in VR. But I love all the crazy experiments. And luckily no one has founded it on Kickstarter. Probably people wanted to live long enough to see the next generation of VR. But I imagine the failed videos with this would have been cool. But the creator made it so you could also fly in VR, because with all the other solutions, you can't fly. So it's let's do this crazy thing so you can actually throw yourself in the air in VR. Wow. You do it. Personally, I won't do it, but it's cool. Going to the fascinations of the technology, I usually love to talk about brain-computer interfaces, because I've talked to you about how to emulate all the five senses with gadgets that you wear in your home, but we in the end feel everything with our brain. So the final idea that also has Elon Musk with Neuralink is, why don't you put this emulation really inside our brain? And there are already experiments in injecting info into our brain or decoding information from our brain in different ways. This will require a separate talk just to talk about it, but it's the far future of the emulation of the five senses in VR. Now I just put some nice videos about the control labs. So you see in this video, there is a guy playing the Chrome game by pressing the space to make the dinosaur jump. And it is something that we already do in real life. But then he stops pressing it and the dinosaur jumps anyway. And then he'd even do this and the dinosaur jump. How it is possible? It is possible because the brain thinks about pressing the key, and it's like it starts alerting the muscles to do that. And that bracelet, that is a BMI device, so it can detect the electricity going through your muscles, can detect this little spike and make you perform the movement the same. And this can be useful, for instance, for type in VR. Facebook is experimenting with this. This is a very old video. They make you see that the final goal of Facebook is make you think about the words. So you can type by just thinking about what you want to type. And this is important in AR and VR, where we are terrible in typing in the virtual world. Just this controller selecting every word is too tiresome. And there are lots of experiments that Facebook is doing. Here I put another one about typing, this kind with hands tracking, so that you can type on every surface with just using your hands with no keyboard. So if you know how to touch type, you can do this everywhere. It is important there is a table, because so you have the haptic sensation having touched something. So here it is the importance of having all the five senses, the visuals to see what you want to type, and the touch sensation is kind of given by a real object. And this kind of tricks is used also by other devices like the HoloLens, when the pinch is like this, because so you have the haptic sensation of the two fingers touching themselves. But Facebook is also experimenting, as I said, a lot with actually the use of the brain. One video that I have showcased is, for instance, you see at the Facebook Connect, you could see a video where there was a virtual hand opening and closing. And the first thought is, okay, there is a person that is closing and opening his hand. Then you see that actually it is a brain interface to say, okay, that's fascinating. So now we have a way to understand what the user wants to do this. But then there is a focus on the hand of the user, and the user is a disabled people, has only 3 kind of fingers that are like glued together. But his brain was able to understand how to move this kind of 5 fingers hand, even if he had only 3 fingers. He had born in that way. So the brain had this kind of neuroplasticity, kind of adapt to the virtual environment. And that experiment, so make you try in the virtual environment to have 6 fingers or 7 fingers. So how much fingers can your brain adapt in having? And these are kind of super fascinating topics because you can emulate sensation in fingers that you actually don't have. And so with this, I want to close with just a final slide. After we have talked about this kind of 5 senses with different devices, or even just putting them inside your brain. So in the end, in 10, 5 years, what will be the reality? So what is reality in the beginning? When we have this perfect emulation of all 5 senses, the virtual reality will be indistinguishable from the virtual one, the real from the real one. So you can have augmented, mixed, virtual reality, all feel like the same. So all feel so realistic. We don't have to be scared about this. So if these virtual elements are for the better, this is of course a good thing. Someone also says, yeah, but what if people then keep living inside VR forever? And a psychologist, I asked this question to a psychologist here in Italy, and he told me 2 things. He told, well, it depends. So if this can benefit him, what is the problem? What is your problem in someone that can live in VR in the future, like in the Matrix? Because we already don't know what actually is real. There are some theories that say that we already live in a simulation. So maybe we are already inside the game and we were scared about being inside another virtual one. He said that anyway, we shouldn't be scared about this. And of course, now if someone has this kind of conditions, it's because it has already has some problem, psychological problems already been there. But if it happens in the future with a fully believable VR, maybe we'll already live in this kind of mix of realities. He asked me in the end, what is reality? And I had no idea because I don't know what is reality. It's hard to define. And he told me that reality is just a set of conventions. So we say that this is the reality. Then we don't know if actually we're in a simulation, we're in real life. We just define this as reality. And probably in 10 years, 15 years, our concept of realities can change. We should adapt to it. So with this, I finish this super futuristic talk. If you have some questions, I'm here to listen to you. And if you want to contact me, you can contact us of New Technology.